Wellness Rhythm Show. Find your rhythm. Live your wellness.
Y'all, let me tell you something that happened to me about 2 years ago. I started getting these weird reactions to foods I'd eaten my whole life. Like suddenly eggs were making me feel awful. I thought I was losing my mind.
Right. And I think a lot of listeners probably know exactly that feeling. But here's what's genuinely fascinating, Emma. What you were describing has a name, and it connects to something researchers are calling gut barrier integrity. And it turns out it touches almost everything.
Almost everything. We're talking immunity, inflammation, food sensitivities, even your metabolism. And here's the thing though, nobody talks about it in plain English. So today, that is exactly what we're doing.
Precisely. We're unpacking the gut barrier, what it actually is, what happens when it's compromised, and critically, what you can realistically do about it.
So let's start at the beginning. David, in plain terms, what even is the gut barrier?
Right, so imagine your gut lining as a very sophisticated security fence. It's only one cell thick in places, but it's supposed to control what gets into your bloodstream and what stays out. Nutrients in, harmful stuff out.
And when that fence gets gaps in it?
That's where the term intestinal permeability comes in, sometimes called leaky gut, though that phrase is a bit contested in clinical circles. Dr. Alessio Fasano at Harvard has done significant work here, showing that this barrier is dynamic, not static. It responds to what you eat, your stress levels, your sleep, your microbiome.
So it's not just a fixed wall, it's actually reacting to your life in real time.
Exactly. And the mechanism involves proteins called tight junctions. These are literally the gatekeepers between your gut cells. When they loosen, larger molecules, including bacterial fragments, can cross into circulation.
Okay, and this is where it gets wild, because those bacterial fragments, they have a name, right?
They do. Lipopolysaccharides, or LPS, they're fragments from the outer wall of certain gut bacteria. And when they cross into the bloodstream, the immune system sees them as a threat and mounts a response. Researchers call this metabolic endotoxemia.
Metabolic endotoxemia. Y'all, that sounds scary, and honestly, it kind of is, because this is a low-grade chronic immune activation. It's not like you feel acutely sick.
Right? And that's precisely what makes it so insidious. A landmark study published in the journal Diabetes by Patrice Cani and colleagues in 2007 actually showed that high-fat diets in mice dramatically increase circulating LPS levels, driving systemic inflammation and insulin resistance.
And subsequent human studies have supported that direction.
They have, yes. Not perfectly replicated across every population, but the signal is consistent enough to take seriously.
So let's talk about the food sensitivity piece, because this is the thing I lived. I want to understand why the gut barrier connects to suddenly reacting to foods you've always eaten.
Brilliant question. So when the barrier is compromised, partially digested food proteins can cross into the bloodstream. The immune system, which has never properly met these proteins through the normal digestive process, treats them as foreign. You can develop what researchers call non-Ig mediated food sensitivities.
Which is different from a true allergic reaction.
Different from classic Ig allergies, yes. This is more of an immune tolerance failure. Dr. Fasano's research also explores how zonulin, a protein that regulates tight junction permeability, can be triggered by gluten and certain gut bacteria, further opening that barrier.
Here's the thing though, I want to be honest with listeners. The science on zonulin is promising but still evolving. It's not a clean, settled story yet.
No, and that's the honest position. The research is compelling and directional, but we're not at the point where you can just test your zonulin levels and get a definitive answer. The clinical utility is still being worked out.
And I think that's actually important for our audience to hear, especially folks in their 40s, 50s, 60s, because gut barrier changes do seem to accelerate with age.
They do. There's research from the National Institute on Aging and various European geroscience groups showing that intestinal permeability tends to increase as we age, partly due to changes in the microbiome composition, reduced production of protective mucus, and systemic increases in inflammatory markers.
So if you're in our audience and you're in that sandwich generation, juggling parents and kids and a full-time job, your gut barrier is basically also juggling a lot.
Rather poetically put. And chronic psychological stress is genuinely a factor. Studies show that stress hormones, particularly cortisol, can directly loosen those tight junctions. So, the stress-gut connection is not metaphorical. It's physiological.
Okay, I want to push back on something here because I've seen this topic get wildly overclaimed online. Like people saying leaky gut causes everything from autism to arthritis, and I get a little uncomfortable with that.
And that skepticism is completely warranted. The association between increased intestinal permeability and conditions like inflammatory bowel disease, celiac disease, and type 2 diabetes is reasonably well supported. The causal claims in other areas are much weaker. Correlation is doing a lot of heavy lifting in some of those conversations.
So how should our listeners think about this practically? Not everyone needs to become obsessed with their gut lining.
Right. Here's what I've learned from looking at the evidence. The interventions that seem to support gut barrier integrity are also just, sensibly good lifestyle practices. They're not exotic or expensive.
Let's run through them. Fiber first, because the research here is pretty consistent.
Very. Dietary fiber, particularly from diverse plant sources, feeds beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, especially butyrate. Butyrate is essentially fuel for the cells lining your gut. Research from the Sonnenberg lab at Stanford has been quite illuminating on how dietary diversity supports microbiome diversity, which in turn supports barrier function.
And they published that landmark study in Cell in 2021 comparing high fiber versus high fermented food diets. Fermented foods won on microbiome diversity metrics, which was surprising.
It was, though both have value. The point is variety and consistency, not a single superfood.
Speaking of which, y'all, if you're finding this episode useful, please do us a favor and hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps us keep bringing you this kind of evidence-based content for free. We really appreciate it.
We do. Right, back to practical tools. Sleep is another underrated one here. Research published in the journal Sleep Medicine Reviews has linked sleep deprivation to increased gut permeability markers. The gut, like the rest of us, apparently needs rest.
I feel that in my soul. And then there's the stress piece, which I know can feel like thanks, very helpful, now I just won't be stressed. But there are actual practices.
Mind-body interventions specifically. A 2020 review in Frontiers in Psychiatry looked at mindfulness-based stress reduction and its downstream effects on gut inflammation markers. The effect sizes were modest but real.
And I think the word modest is actually honest and helpful, because wellness culture sometimes promises transformation, and what you often get is meaningfully better over time.
Which is frankly how most of biology works.
What about things to avoid? Because I feel like that side of the equation gets glossed over.
Ultra-processed foods are probably the biggest factor. Emulsifiers like carrageenan and polysorbate 80 have shown in preclinical research, notably from the Govertz lab at Georgia State, to disrupt the gut mucus layer and alter microbiome composition. It's not fully proven in humans yet, but it's worth attention.
Excessive alcohol is another one. That one is well established for gut permeability.
Unambiguously, yes. And long-term use of NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen, is also associated with increased permeability. Worth a conversation with your doctor if that's a regular part of your routine.
And that is always the answer for anything clinical. This is wellness guidance, not medical advice. Your GP is your friend, people.
Quite right.
Okay, so if you're walking away from this episode with one thing, here's what I want it to be. Your gut barrier is a living, responsive system. You have real practical influence over it through food diversity, sleep, stress management, and being mindful of what disrupts it. You don't have to overhaul your life. Start with adding, not subtracting.
And I'd add, be appropriately skeptical of anyone selling you a single supplement or protocol that claims to heal your gut barrier overnight. The science supports consistent, boring lifestyle-level choices, which is admittedly less exciting but considerably more effective.
Consistently boring might be the most David Park thing you've ever said, and I completely agree. Y'all, thank you so much for spending this time with us. We genuinely love making this show for you.
Until next time, take care of that fence.
This show is part of the VoxCrea.AI system. If you want a show like this for your organization without building it yourself,
go to VoxCrea.AI and request a sample episode.